Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 1st at about 10:15 in the morning. And my name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on what I call scanning, SQANNING, which is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and hopefully mental calm. That's why we're here. We're here to achieve a state of calm. We're here to feel better. We're here to practice this technique, which will allow us to access that state of calm on demand whenever we feel we need it. And so it's pretty tense times out there, and I think basically I've decided to put my focus on this technique because I've seen the benefits of it in terms of my work, in terms of my relationships, in terms of my general state of being. This technique, scanning, allows me to bring myself into a state of calm when I feel I need it. To recognize when I am in what I call a contracted state, squeeze your hands together, a contracted state, to recognize when I'm in that state, to recognize that feeling, and to recall through training that I have the ability to move myself out of that contracted state into an expanded state, which is a state of calm and clarity and peace and hopefully joy. So that's what we're here to do, to continue that practice. If you've been here before, you kind of know the technique. It's really simple. It's really basic. And if you haven't, I'll just give you a few words of introduction. Years ago, I read a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment by a man named Thaddeus Golas, Golas, and he postulated that the entire universe is made up of two basic forces, contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, release. And he said basically that's the two forces of the universe, and that we vacillate between those two states, contraction and expansion, throughout our day, throughout our lives. And depending on whether we are in a more contracted or expanded state, that affects our state of consciousness. So the theory being that when you are in a overly contracted state, you feel restricted, closed off, limited, in denial, in a state of what I call no, limited, impermeable, solid, and generally unhappy. When you move towards expansion, you become permeable, you become open, you become accessible, aware, willing, positive, and you feel better. So again, neither is wrong or right. It's just a way of describing our basic states of consciousness. So I found, after reading this book, that I could very much relate to this in a physical way. I sensed that when I was physically contracted, tight, limited, that I felt unhappy, and that if I felt unhappy, even if I wasn't aware of a physical contraction, I could bring myself into a better state of mind by expanding via the musculature, relaxing and opening up the muscles of the body. That this in turn led to a mental clarity, a mental state of expansion. So that's what I've practiced for years and years, and I do it every day, and I do it here publicly to share it with you. And it's a very simple technique. All we're doing is relying on the musculature of the body to guide us, to lead us into a more expanded state of consciousness. And by that I mean there's no book to read, there's no theory, there's no words to recite, there's nothing to talk about per se. All we're going to do is concentrate on incrementally releasing the muscular tension in our body, thereby expanding the musculature of our body, moving ourselves into a more expanded state, which will in turn move our consciousness, our emotions, and our mind into a more expanded state, which allows us to be in this calmer, more still, clear state of mind. That's all we're doing. It's so simple. Sometimes people say, well, how can you spend a half an hour doing this? If it's so simple, why don't you just do it and be done? Well, because the body, when it is in a contracted state, it tends to want to hold on to that contracted state. So it must be gently persuaded and nudged into a more expanded state. It's resistant. So we tap at that door gently, and we do it repeatedly over the course of 15 minutes, a half an hour, and then we start to notice that the body gives way, starts to relax, release, until you've moved into this completely relaxed state, which in turn affects your mind. If you think of the mind as a muscle, which holds on to things, holds on to thoughts, ideas, obsessions, compulsions, anxiety. As your body relaxes, so your mind follows suit and relaxes and lets those obsessive thoughts and ideas just float away. And you find yourself in a very neutral, calm place, which is where we're trying to get to. That's the goal, to bring ourselves into a state of calm, peace, stillness, clarity, acceptance, awareness, and joy. At least a couple times a day. That's what we're trying to do. Now, before we get started, I had a couple thoughts yesterday, and I wanted to share them, and that's mainly focused around the idea of habit. Habit. We have habitual ways of dealing with stress. Habitual ways of dealing with stress. There are things that we consider our go-to solutions, for better or worse. Some of them are not very healthy. Some of them are. But in any case, putting aside external solutions like alcohol or drugs or medications, things which externally are given to us or applied to our body to force us to expand, assuming that we are left to our own devices, I'll give you an example of habitual behavior. If I am in a stressful situation, the first thing I'll do is I'll start to think, what do I need to do to get out of that situation? I'll start to think about it. I will think. I'll have ideas going through my heads, obsessive ideas, stressful ideas, and I will get locked into that thought process. Now again, the universe is made up of contraction and expansion. Words, thoughts are a contraction, a bringing together of thoughts, materials, ideas to achieve a goal, in this case, solve a problem. So if we are feeling contracted, the thought came to me that contractions are the last thing you want to do. If you're feeling contracted, anxious, the last thing you want to do is apply more contractions. And yet habitually, that's what we do. We are in a difficult situation. We have to come up with a solution. We feel limited. So we think. We apply more contractions. And the thought occurred to me that perhaps that's not the right solution. It's habitual, but maybe we can break that habit. Maybe when we're in a difficult situation, instead of thinking, we expanded. What if we substituted those thoughts with physical relaxation? And I realized that that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to change my habits. Through this training, I'm trying to make the conditioned response to stress relaxation. In other words, any situation I go into, instead of thinking or trying to solve it or apply a structure to that situation, what if instead, if only for a moment, I just relaxed and allowed whatever solutions might be available in the universe to just come to me? It's very counterintuitive, and yet it works. So what we're trying to do here is break behavioral habits. We're trying to substitute relaxation for contraction. We're trying to substitute expansion for contraction. We're trying to substitute an empty mind for a thought-obsessed mind. We're trying to substitute a relaxed body for a tense body. But that takes conditioning because we habitually contract. So that's what we're doing here. Now you will find when you practice this process that you will be resistant. You will want to stay within your habits, your thoughts, your ideas, your physical sense of tension and readiness. That's why you practice, to condition yourself to go the opposite direction. So let's get started. Squeeze your hands together. That's contraction. Okay? That's what it feels like. This is what we do 99% of the day, is we actively work, use our muscles, use our thoughts, use our minds, use our ideas, our effort to achieve a goal. That's the go-to position. That's the habitual response. And that works. Most of the time that works. In our work, in our relationships, we make an active attempt to solve a problem, to fix a situation that needs fixing, to achieve our goals. We actively contract. That's fine. But what we forget is that just as valuable is the opposite of contraction, which is expansion. 3, 2, 1, release. Let your hands go. Completely release, drop them, and take a deep breath. So what we're doing in this training, in this practice, is conditioning ourselves to a new way. When there's a situation that's difficult, when we're feeling depressed or contracted or angry, anxious, having compulsive thoughts, training ourselves to expand. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do. In your mind, keep that in mind throughout the day. When something happens and you think, I've got to do something about that, I've got to think of a solution for that, take at least a few moments to just go, no, my solution is to relax. Before I do anything, I'm just going to relax and see what comes to me. I'm going to expand and make space for a solution and see what happens. This feels risky. This feels like you're not doing anything. This feels like it can't possibly work. And yet, what I've discovered is it does. But it requires breaking a habit because we compulsively go for contraction. And it requires taking a chance on expansion and seeing what happens. So let's do it again. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. That's contraction. And on my count, you're going to 3, 2, 1, release. Feel the difference. Drop your hands and take 3 deep breaths. Then sit for 15 seconds in stillness and silence. So imagine, if you will, if in those moments when you're driving your car or you're just sitting in your apartment or home, imagine instead of filling that time with thoughts about the past, about the future, about the moment, what you're going to do, what you should do, what you did do, what you plan on doing, imagine filling those moments instead with silence and stillness, awareness, quiet, peace, openness, clarity. Imagine. It's hard to imagine because we habitually fill our minds with thoughts and ideas. You know, I took a long drive yesterday. I went out to Malibu for, some ocean air. And on the drive back, my mind was constantly rushing to fill itself with thoughts of what I'd done previously, the day before, what I was going to do in the next few days. My mind was just thoughts, 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 thoughts. And I felt tense. And I practice this a lot, but it never occurred to me to just stop thinking completely. I thought, well, that's a normal part of my day. But I thought, what if I broke that habit and filled my mind with nothing and sat in nothingness? What would that do for me? So the entire drive home, I tried to maintain an empty mind. And it's a struggle. It's a real struggle, because habitually we fill our minds. We fill the space. It makes us feel, we think, secure. But if you can get to a place of clarity and relaxation, that feels even more secure, because then there's nothing to think about or worry about. You just feel content in the moment. The way we get to that kind of quiet mind is through physical relaxation, relaxing the muscles. So the entire drive home, that's what I did. I found a muscle group, I released it. I found another muscle group, I released it. And I found so much tension in my body. And I kept doing it the whole drive home. And suddenly I found that my body had relaxed and was calm. My mind cleared. And I was able to drive in stillness and silence without the radio, without any sort of stimulus or placeholders, just enjoying the drive. And that's when it occurred to me that it's habitual. We just habitually fill our minds. And the only way to counter that is to not say with another thought, stop thinking, but just relax your body. The mind will follow. So here we go again. Squeeze your hands tight, tight, tight. That's contraction, that's thoughts, that's ideas, that's actions. We're going to do the opposite by physically relaxing. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands. 3 deep breaths. "15 seconds of stillness and silence. And by the way, I want to make it absolutely clear that deep breaths and sitting in stillness and silence with your eyes closed is not something you're going to want to do while you're driving. That's for when you're sitting down. The stillness and silence is fine, but you must concentrate on your driving. So don't take my example as evidence that you should ever try this while you're driving. But if you're sitting in a chair and comfortably at home, keep trying. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1. Tight, tight, tight. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands. Take 3 deep breaths. Two more if you can. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Again, squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. That's contraction. We're going to move ourselves from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. 3, 2, 1, release. Feel the difference. Drop your hands. 5 deep breaths. 30 seconds of complete stillness and silence. Deep breath. So it's amazing to me. You can actually bring yourself to a state of peace and quiet and a clear mind simply through the physical act of muscular relaxation. So these are the preliminary steps. You squeeze to indicate that you're contracted. You release to indicate you have the power to expand. You take a series of deep breaths, which are expansive by nature. You sit in stillness and silence, complete stillness being the opposite of action. So stillness brings you towards expansion. Complete silence, because silence is the opposite of words and thoughts, which are contractions. So you are stopping the contractive process and bringing yourself towards expansion. And what I notice for me is a sort of quiet comes over me. I just don't have any thoughts in my mind at all. I'm just sort of in the moment, still, alert, quiet, clear, calm, aware. Just through taking a series of deep breaths and sitting in stillness and silence. If you can do nothing else, if you have time for nothing else, just do those preliminary steps. So now we get into the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the incremental release of muscular tension. So we've got about another 15 minutes. So we're just going to concentrate on just incrementally releasing the musculature. And again, this is something you do when you're seated safely in a chair. You know, I brought this up that I was driving. I hesitate to say that was the right idea, because in truth, when you're driving, you want to be concentrated and alert. But when you're sitting in your chair, you're going to begin this process of incremental muscular release, starting with the face. 3, 2, 1, release. Letting go of all tension in that muscular group. The face. 3, 2, 1, release. I snap to indicate that it's a flipping of the switch. You're turning the power off to those muscles. Watch my face. 3, 2, 1. That's sort of dramatic, but that's the feeling, that's the effect you're looking for. We're training ourselves to incrementally release muscular tension. We're used to contracting. We're used to taking action. We're used to thinking words and thoughts as the go-to solution in any situation. We're training ourselves. We're breaking that habit, and we're attempting to, on demand, create a new habit, and that is incremental muscular release, expansion. The top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. And you'll feel a dropping, a loosening, a letting go sensation. The top of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. Now this may feel small, that's fine. It doesn't have to be a dramatic change. What's important is that you're studying this process of incremental muscular release. You're getting better and better at it, more and more familiar with it, like learning the piano. Your fingers learn where to go. You're becoming familiar with this heretofore unfamiliar process of incremental muscular release. The back of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. The back of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. And you may feel other parts of your body let go at the same time. In sympathy with this process, let that happen. Take as many deep breaths as you feel an impulse to take. Anything that moves you towards expansion. Zone 4, the neck. 3, 2, 1. Release. Again, the neck. 3, 2, 1. Release. The shoulders, let them drop a millimeter. 3, 2, 1. Release. The shoulders. 3, 2, 1. Release. We're going quickly through these zones. We're going to start again at the very beginning once we've finished. Again, you're drilling yourself. You're practicing this technique. It's like playing the piano. You just keep doing it over and over again. The shoulders. 3, 2, 1. Release. Zone 6 is the chest down into the stomach. 3, 2, 1. Release. Feel that dropping, releasing, slouching sensation. You also will start to have feelings and sensations in your body as you let go of the tension. Let that happen. Your body's coming alive. You're re-inhabiting yourself. You've been living up in your head. Now you're re-inhabiting your body, so you're starting to become aware of it on a sensory level. Zone 7, the back. 3, 2, 1. Release. Again, the back. 3, 2, 1. Release. I've changed the numbering system a little bit to give the back its own due, because the back is very important. Again, the back. 3, 2, 1. Feel that release. Take a breath. Zone 8 is the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, release. And when we say the pelvis, we say any clenching or tightness you feel in this very sensitive area. 3, 2, 1, the pelvis, release. Final zone, 9, down over the legs and knees into the feet. 3, 2, 1, and just let it go, release. Deep breath. And just sit for a moment and register what it feels like to be re-inhabiting your body. As you become more aware, as you become more expanded, you have this sense of stillness that comes over you. You're much more comfortable just sitting in stillness and silence and doing absolutely nothing. You're comfortable just tuning into the moment, listening to the sounds around you, feeling the beating of your heart, heightening your sensations, your awareness of the sensations in your arms and legs and feet, slight throbbing sensations, tingling. You're re-inhabiting your body. And then we start again. We're going to cycle through. Take a deep breath. Another. And another. 15 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. The face. 3, 2, 1, release. And each time you go through, you will feel a greater sensation within that area. You'll be more aware. You'll feel more of an ability to release those muscles. The face. 3, 2, 1, let it go. Sort of drooping sensation. The top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. And you may say, well, I didn't feel anything. That's okay. You're looking for the slightest change from this to this. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. I feel a sort of a spreading sensation. I feel it come down into my forehead, as if it's been bunched up, like a wrinkled shirt, I like to say, and you pass a steamer over it, and it goes, poof, all the wrinkles leave. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. And I just felt my shoulders release. Sometimes that will happen. You release one part of your body, and the other part will release in sympathy. Your body starts to kind of understand where you're going. It says, I see, we're moving out of contraction into expansion. And while it's initially resistant, as it begins to see how good it feels, it will give in to the process. At some point, your body will just completely let go. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. Again, it's a spreading sensation, a letting go. Zone 4, the neck, 3, 2, 1, release. The neck, 3, 2, 1, release. And now this whole area, the face, the top of the head, the back of the head, and neck together, 3, 2, 1, release. And I feel a sort of a drooping, sagging sensation, as though someone has kind of placed a wet, warm rag, a washcloth over my face, and I just feel it sort of hanging on me. There's a letting go, a warm, relaxed, drooping sensation. As you let go of this low level of tension you've been carrying in your body for days, weeks, months, it's just always there, and you're not even aware you're holding it. And as you start to let go, you go, wow, you mean I can really let go? Yes, you can. There's nothing required of you right now. You're sitting in a chair. You can completely let go of all this unnecessary tension. The neck, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Frequently you will feel an impulse to take a deep breath after you let go of a muscle group. Tension tends to make you hold your breath. As you release tension, your body recognizes it as an opportunity to catch up on the depleted oxygen. Take those breaths. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, drop them. Again, the shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. Zone 6, the chest into the stomach and waist, 3, 2, 1, release. It's a very gentle process. Slight release. Again, watch my face, 3, 2, 1, That's all you're doing, that, Zone 7, the back, 3, 2, 1, let it go. You may feel yourself settle a little more comfortably and deeply into your chair. The back, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Release. And you'll start to feel a heightened awareness of your ability to release a muscle. We know how to unclench a fist. We know how to let our face go. These other muscle groups we're not as familiar with or comfortable with. So just let it go. The back, 3, 2, 1, release. The pelvis, 3, 2, 1, release. The legs down into the feet, 3, 2, 1, release. 5 deep breaths. 30 seconds of stillness and silence. Deep breath. So again, what I feel as I move into the state of expansion is quiet and still. A comfort with just being. My compulsive thoughts have dissipated. My compulsive feelings of action have dissipated. I'm much more comfortable doing nothing. I have a heightened sense of sound and sensation. I feel at peace, I feel released, and I feel relieved. Like I've taken a certain amount of pressure off myself. Now remember, you are carrying a low level of muscular tension throughout your body, and you've released maybe 20% of that. If you keep going, you can get to 100%. But you've been holding this low level of muscular tension. As you let go, less work is required. Less energy is expended. It's like you've given yourself a vacation from yourself. You've put yourself on a vacation of sorts. You've planted yourself on a beach in Tahiti, and you're just there now lying on that towel. And that's why I say your state of consciousness is always within your control. You know, I need a vacation, man, I gotta get away, I need a vacation. You can give yourself that vacation. You can take yourself to that place through this process. And I started out the session by talking about habit. And it is just a habit. You have to create this new habit. You have to start training yourself to understand that when you come into a tense, contracted situation, when you're under pressure, when you're worried about money or your career or relationships or your health or anything, instead of the habitual place you go to of worry and anxiety and compulsive thoughts, say, I have another way to go. There's 2 roads. I can contract and become more contracted, or I can expand and counterbalance that contraction and center myself. So we're creating a new habit. So I just want you to think about the possibility of, in any given situation, choosing expansion. Choose expansion. And when you've done it enough, you'll automatically just start to go there. Right now you have to make an effort. You have to really think about it. But if you do it enough, it's a conditioned response. You'll just start to do it. There's a video online, and if you can find it, there's a guy who puts a challenge to himself like once a month, and he'll say there's something that he's going to see if he can learn how to do X, Y, Z in 1 month. And he videotapes his progress, and the whole video is probably 10 minutes long, but he condenses it. But you see this guy start out not knowing how to do this thing at all, and then by the end of it being somewhat of a master. So in this particular case, he found a bicycle, if you can imagine this, a bicycle that's designed so that when you turn the handlebars to the right, the wheel goes left. When you turn the handlebars to the left, the wheel goes right, and it's some sort of reverse gear. And initially, it's almost hysterical watching him try to ride, because they say turn right, and you automatically want to go to your right, and if you do that, the wheel goes left and you fall over. So you have to train yourself when you want to go right to turn the steering wheel left. And instinctively, it goes against every bone in your body. Instinctively, you just can't do it. You're so conditioned to lean right, lean left, turn left. And you watch him do this, and it's fascinating. I highly recommend it. If I can find the link, I'll put it up. And over the course of maybe not even a month, maybe a couple of weeks, he learns how to do it. Pretty soon, when he wants to go right, he turns left and he goes to the right. When he wants to go left, he turns right and he goes to the left. And it's crazy. And that's what you're trying to do here. You're trying to condition yourself how when you feel contracted, when you feel anxious, and your automatic response is to contract, to think, to obsess, to do, let's say turn right, you're conditioning yourself to do the opposite. When you are in a difficult, tense, challenging situation, you're conditioning yourself to do the opposite. expand, do nothing, relax, release, go to a neutral, calm, still, empty place. It's counterintuitive. We want to act, to take action, to think. But I'm suggesting to you that you try a new habit. When you're faced with a challenge or a difficulty, let go, release, expand. So for me, for example, I have a real problem because when I, go to sleep at night, I habitually will pick up my phone and I'll just read the news or watch videos for what I intend to be 5 minutes, but it always ends up being a half an hour or an hour. That's my habit. When I need to relax, expand the most, I start contracting. I start concentrating on videos, the news, emails, and all this stuff. It's a habit. It's a security blanket of sorts. So I'm trying, along with you and everyone else, to condition myself to go the opposite way. When I'm tense, when I'm anxious, when I need to relax, expand. Don't grab onto some external process like the internet or a video game or a drink or some process. Do the opposite. Do nothing. But it's a difficult thing to learn, so you train, so it becomes a new habit. Okay, so let's continue. We've got another 5 minutes. Let's continue with this process. We did the initial contraction, expansion, deep breath, stillness, and silence, and now we're working on the incremental muscular release, creating this new habit. The face, 3, 2, 1, release. The top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. And now, having done it twice, 2 cycles before, it's now feeling more familiar and available to me. I feel more able to induce this incremental muscular release. The neck, 3, 2, 1, release. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. The chest and stomach into the waist, 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. The back, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Release. It can only be, it doesn't have to be a lot, just a small sensation of release. The back, 3, 2, 1, release. The pelvis, 3, 2, 1, release. Down the legs and into the feet, 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. Quickly, let's start and cycle through the whole thing again. The face, 3, 2, 1, release. The top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. And again, I snap my fingers because we're flipping a switch. We're turning the power off to those muscles. The face, watch my face, 3, 2, 1. Okay. The neck, 3, 2, 1, release. And look for that sensation. Study your body. Become familiar with the sensation of incremental muscular release. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. And now you're getting deeper. Now you're starting to enter a total body release. The chest into the stomach, you can feel yourself sagging into the chair. 3, 2, 1, release. And let that happen. The back, 3, 2, 1, release. The pelvis, 3, 2, 1, release. And the legs down into the feet, 3, 2, 1, release. 5 deep breaths. 30 seconds of stillness and silence. Deep breath. And that is it for today's session. So ideally, if you were to practice this on your own, what you would do is you would just continue to cycle through. This is not necessarily easy because it is counterintuitive. Again, our habitual habit is to move towards contraction as a solution. And by contraction, I mean physical contraction, emotional contraction, mental contraction, thoughts, ideas. So challenge yourself. Try to sit in your chair for 5 minutes and just concentrate specifically on incremental muscular release. Just challenge yourself. See if you can do it. Thoughts will keep popping into your head, and when they do, go back to the physical relaxation. You'll have more thoughts. Go back to the physical release and relaxation. As you put your concentration into the muscular release, it will draw you out of your mind and into your body. There will be a battle of sorts, a war of sorts between the mind and the body. As you practice, you will learn how to win that battle. And that's what we're trying to do. Because when we can move ourselves into a physically still, quiet, clear, calm, relaxed, expanded state of consciousness and being, our mind will clear and you will become comfortable with just being. And you will like that place because it's very calm and still and somewhat joyful, because you feel at that moment like everything's all right. Regardless of what's going on in the world, in that moment, within yourself, everything's fine. And then you go out and you face the challenges of your day. But you have to find occasionally that place of satisfaction. So, practice, practice, practice. That's it for today. I will repost this session on my Facebook page. I'll also post it on the Scanning Facebook page. If you go there and like and follow, you'll get alerts when there's a new session. I try to do a session every day. There's also a Scanning Facebook page. I end every session with the same rule. Rule number 1. It is essential. It is essential. If you want to move through this life successfully, peacefully, joyfully, to love yourself. That's rule number 1. You can't achieve anything without loving yourself. You must love yourself. And the great thing is the universe provides an infinite amount of love for you to take and donate to yourself every single day. So take as much as you need, as often as you like, until you're completely filled up with self-love. And when you're so satisfied, when you feel so much self-love that it's just spilling over, there's extra, pass it around to the rest of us because we could all use it. And that's it for today. It's Tuesday. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.